Trouble with the Maidens, Part 1. Once upon a time in the land of Omens, there was a beautiful maiden named Oma. She was very pretty and respectful. Everyone loved her and her peers enjoyed being around her. Story had it that beautiful good luck birds were seen flying around the day Oma was born. Oma was well-mannered and often helped the elderly to do the chores at their homes. She would help them sweep their homes, fetch water, and get firewood for cooking. The people she helped often sang her praises and blessed her immensely with kind words and good wishes. She was adorable. One day Oma went to visit Nina, an elderly woman who she usually goes to help because she was getting older and had no children of her own to help her. She helped Nina sweep her house and cook. As Oma was preparing to leave, Nina gave her some fruits and asked her to come the next day to keep her company. As soon as she left Nina's compound, Cary ran after her telling her to stop at once. Cary was Nina's niece. She was twice the age of Oma. Even though Cary lives in the same compound with Nina, she rarely helps Nina. Oma had noticed that Cary gets uncomfortable each time she visits Nina, and sometimes speaks to her harshly even when unprovoked. Oma quickly stopped to know why Cary was telling her to stop. Cary looked at Oma as if she did something wrong. "Where do you think you are going with the basket of fruits?" asked Cary. "I'm going home," Oma replied, still holding her basket of fruits. "You can't take the fruits with you. Bring it," she commanded, and reached out to grab the baskets of fruits. Oma held onto the basket of fruits. "Why?" she asked. "Nina gave them to me and I'm going to share with the little kids at the orphanage," Oma replied. "Stop coming here to do house chores for Nina. I know you are pretending to be good," Cary said. Seeing that Oma was not going to hand over the fruit basket, Cary reached over and grabbed some fruits while Oma walked away. Cary was a single, bitter middle-aged woman who usually finds fault in Oma's good deeds and that of her friends. When she was much younger, she rejected many suitors who asked for her hand in marriage. She made it clear to everyone that she will not marry any man who is not a prince, and each time a suitor comes for her hand in marriage, she turned them down. Unfortunately, no prince came to marry her, and that was why she remained single. Now that she was much older, she made it her duty to antagonize young maidens who were attracting suitors and getting married. The young maidens knew of Cary's attitude towards them and they try as much as possible to avoid her. One day, Oma and her friends went to the stream to fetch water, and they ran into Cary. They greeted Cary one after the other as they passed her. "Come back here," she yelled at them. "Didn't your parents teach you how to properly greet your elders?" she barked at them. The maidens stopped at the command of Cary's voice, and they were surprised at her assertions because they greeted her. Cary stared at the maidens, giving them a grim look. "Just get out of here," she screamed at them, after she saw that they were not going to argue with her. With surprised looks on their faces, Oma and her friends turned around and continued to make their way to the stream. After they got their water from the stream, "Go," one of the maidens screamed. When the other maidens turned to her direction, they saw that her water pot was leaking from the bottom. "What happened?" Oma asked. "I don't know," Go replied. "My pot was not broken before I got here. I am sure of that because I used it to fetch water earlier today." "Look, Nika," another maiden screamed, pointing to the water pot of the maiden next to her. They were surprised to see that the maiden's water pot was also leaking water. By the time they knew it, all of the maiden's water pots except for Oma's were gushing water. The maidens went home without water except for Oma, whose pot was intact. When the maidens got home and narrated to their parents what occurred at the stream with their water pots, they all believed that it was an omen. Something bad was going to befall the maidens of their land. The elders called for an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. The elders all agreed that what happened with the water pot was an omen and they couldn't figure out why it happened. Why is it that all of the maidens' water pot leaked water except for Oma's? One of the elders asked. What happened is an omen, and why is it that Oma's water pot was not affected? He asked again. All the elders wondered the same thing, and they decided to monitor the situation a little bit more before they draw a conclusion and pay a visit to the seer in their land. The next day, the maidens went to the stream with new pots to fetch water, and the same thing happened again. Their water pots started to leak water except Oma's water pot. Not again. One of them screamed. Something strange is going on here. The maidens turned and gave Oma a stern look as if she was responsible for their leaking water pots. Why is it that your water pot never leaks and all of us except you have experienced it? Ago questioned Oma. I'm curious too. So, explain this to us. Another maiden added. I don't know, said Oma. I am as surprised as you are. She concluded. There must be something that you are not telling us, and we will get to the bottom of it. Another maiden said angrily. The maidens looked very angry, and Oma watched them whisper to themselves. She couldn't make out what they were saying, and they left afterwards, leaving Oma to walk home alone. On getting home, Oma narrated what happened at the stream to her parents. She was very sad as she talked about it. Her parents consoled her and told her not to worry too much about it because they know that she did nothing wrong. The next day, Oma prepared to go to the stream, and she noticed that her favorite water pot was missing. She looked for it everywhere and asked her parents if they moved it, and they said no. So, she took another water pot and headed to the stream. It happened that the maidens conspired and stole Oma's water pot early in the morning before she woke up. They took the water pot to the stream to fetch water, and on their way back, the pot started to leak. They were all shocked to see that the same pot that Oma had been using suddenly started to leak. This is unbelievable, said one of the maidens. How come Oma's pot suddenly started to leak water? Oma must have been responsible for what is going on with our water pots, said another maiden. She must be evil. Another maiden chimed in. The maidens headed back home and met Oma on their way. They confronted Oma and questioned her to find out why her water pot, which never leaked water, suddenly started leaking water when they used it. Oma told them she didn't know why that happened. Liar! Screamed one of the maidens. You know why our water pots were leaking, and you must tell us today. I know nothing, please let me be. Oma pleaded. The maidens surrounded Oma as if they were going to stop her from running. Please let me go, I don't know what you are talking about, and I didn't do anything. Oma continued to plead. The maidens still didn't believe her. They followed Oma to the stream to see if the pot she was carrying will leak water. When they got to the stream, Oma filled her pot with water, and the maidens followed her to her house to see if her water pot will leak. Surprisingly, Oma's pot did not leak any water. This made the maidens to conclude that Oma was responsible for the situations with their water pots. The maidens started to isolate Oma. They stopped inviting her to their gatherings. There were times when they laughed at her and made fun of her. Even though the maidens would sometimes wait for her on the road to mock and harass her, Oma never stopped visiting the elderly women she had always cared for, including Nina. The elderly women Oma visited consoled her each time she visits them. They assured her that everything will be all right and that she will be vindicated because she did nothing wrong and she has a good heart. Sometimes when Oma visits Nina to help her with her house chores, Cary, Nina's niece, would mock her and rain insults at her. Cary would laugh at Oma and call her the strange lonely girl who is rejected by all. Oma was deeply hurt by Cary's words, and she would cry at home when no one was watching and wondered how her friends could not see that she is innocent. Oma's parents always comforted her. They knew she was innocent of all the accusations. My daughter, I know that you didn't do anything wrong. Oma's father would always say to her. And the gods of our land will always protect you in your going and coming back. Oma's mother also uplifts her spirit every day before she leaves the house. Go well, my daughter, she would always say. Good things will always come to you as you do good to others, and the gods of our land will always protect you. Oma's parents also knew that their daughter had a special gift to care for others, and that was why they never interfered in her passion to help the elderly and the orphans. Instead, they supported her. Oma's mother sometimes gave her food to take to the elderly women and orphans. As time goes on, another situation started to occur around the maidens. The maidens started looking unhappy, and the people of Umu's land noticed that suitors were beginning to disappoint the maidens of their land. No one knew the reasons why suitors stopped coming to ask for the hand of the maidens in marriage, and many were curious to find out the cause of the problems. The elders called for a meeting to deliberate on the situation surrounding the maidens, and they decided to consult the village seer to find out what was going on with the maidens and how they can fix it. When the elders visited the seer, they were told that the reason for the broken water pots and suitor disappointments was because the golden staff, which represent the growth and success of the maidens in Umu's land, has been stolen. The elders were shocked to learn this. When they inquired about who stole the golden staff and the solution to their problem, the seer told them to go home and that everything will be revealed to them in due time. Meanwhile, Oma continued to persevere. End of part 1.